Hello world, and we are back. My name's Kyle Fischl, and this is going to be episode 145 of my poker vlog. Before I get in the hands, just a quick reminder that my Club GG has a $1,000 free roll tournament every Thursday night. Last Thursday night, I actually cashed in it. Yes, I only made $2, but it's free to enter, and there's like 150 up top. Should have went deeper, but I got it all in with King Queen versus two different Jack 10s, and they got straights, so that was the last hand for me. Great opportunity for some tournament practice, free to enter, link in the description below. And with that out of the way, let's roll the tape. First hand of note. We arrive early on a Monday, and 1-3 is the biggest game going at the time. We start out with 6-7 of spades in early position, opening up to $15. Two later position players call, and the big blind calls as well. So we end up going four ways to a flop, which comes queen, 8, deuce, rainbow. One spade. When it checks to me, this is just a board where I'm not really going to put out a bet. I would like to connect a little bit more, at least have a pair to bet into three people. So I'm going to check my option. The later two players decide to check it back, so we end up going four ways to a turn card, which is the 10 of spades. Now this is one where I'm definitely going to bet. Picking up a gut shot, picking up a flush draw. I think my hand has a ton of equity, but no showdown value, so this is going to lead me to a 2/3 pot size bet. I bet $40. The two later position players decide to fold, but the big blind decides to call this bet. Alright, gonna need to complete to be able to continue in this hand, and we do when the river binks the 3 of spades. Having a flush, we think we're going to bet probably around $75 to $80, somewhere around there. Trying to get value from Queen X, 10X, maybe the mythical Jack 9 will pay off a larger size bet. But my opponent leads into me for $75.
I see what's going on here.
When he does this, I think for a second, and I think the only hands that would play this way are made better flushes. And sometimes my opponent might block bet with like Queen Jack, King Queen. Just single top pair hands trying to make sure they can control the size of the pot. Those hands are not going to call a raise. All better flushes are. So this leads me to just make the call. And I'm glad that I did because my opponent had ace deuce of spades. Kind of a bad river card for me, but we end up losing not the absolute maximum based on how this hand played out. Following that, with one limp, an early position player raises to $20. There's one later position player that calls. I'm in the big blind with pocket fives. Definitely going set mining here. 15 to win. Approximately 60 as of right now. But when I call, the limper calls as well. So we end up going four ways to a flop of bink, ace, 5, 4, 2 diamonds. We flop a set on an ace high board. This is the actual dream when you have a set. I check as I'm not the pre-flop aggressor. And the initial limp caller, who is also not the pre-flop aggressor, decides to lead jam for 60. Well, that's probably coming towards me. Hopefully it doesn't induce any of the other players to fold. The pre-flop aggressor decides to let it go. That's disappointing, thinking I'm just going to be able to call this one. But a later position player decides to call the 60. Now I think this is a great spot to start building a side pot. All diamond draws are probably not going to go away to a small raise, and all the ace X are probably going to call a small raise as well. So pretty happy to go for a smallish size raise. Make it $150. Try to start building this side pocket so we can bet big on many safe turn cards. Well, the player who just called the 60 decides to now jam for approximately $500. I have about 500 in my stack. It's going to be a snap call. I ask him if he wants to run it once or twice. He says whatever's up to me. I choose to run it twice as that's my always choice. And he shows pocket fours. We are in an amazing spot. Set over set. My opponent has one out and also running diamonds. The first board comes Queen of Hearts, 6 of Clubs. We are safe on that one. Second board comes 8 of Hearts, Jack of Spades. Also pretty safe. I don't see myself losing here at all. Even if I did, I still have a massive side pot compared to the main with the all-in player. But the all-in player throws his cards away. We end up scooping. We make a massive hand here. Approximately $1,100 pot at 1-3. Feels amazing. After the count, we get a nice little scoop push towards us. And the stack's looking good. We're in for $650 because we had to add on a little bit, but definitely well into profit land at this point. Following that, I'm in the big blind. I looked down at pocket queens. A ton of action ensues as an early position player makes it 15. There's one caller, and the button makes it 50. Now, all the books and poker wisdom would say 3-bet with queens from the big blind. It's a strong enough hand. to put more money into the pot, force out maybe the initial raiser and the caller, try to get this closer to heads up so we have more equity. But you have to know the rules to break the rules. A very basic concept that I've learned through studying on pokercoaching.com, not a paid sponsorship, is that you want to play bigger pots when you're in position and smaller pots out of position. Very basic poker rule, and that leads me to not 4-bet this one and just call. Gonna try to manage the pot a little bit, as there's plenty of flops I'm not gonna like, I'm not gonna be able to hold on to, so we decided to just make the call. One of the later position players calls as well, so not the greatest result, but we are 3 ways to a flop, which comes ace, 8, 6. Rainbow.
I just drove a double shift and I'm dead on my feet.
Horrible flop for my exact hand. Any of these opponents can have an ace X, but I guess that's the good reason why we just called and kept the pot small. Pretty easy to get away from this hand now. When I check, the initial raiser checks, the 3-better decides to bet $55. And he has all the ace X in range. I mean, maybe once in a blue moon you can check raise and hoping to get like pocket kings, pocket jacks to fold, representing a better ace or a 2-pair. But this is not going to be one of those times for me. I let it go. The other player lets it go. And the button shows pocket aces. So we feel absolutely ecstatic losing only $50 when we run queens into aces. Feels pretty good. Next hand of note. An early position player raised to $20. I'm in middle position with pocket sixes. I make the call. One later position player calls, so we're 3 ways to a flop of Bink, Queen 8, 6 rainbow. It is the day where Kyle flops all the sets.
It's happening again.
Hoping the initial raiser will bet so I can raise here. He could bet with Queen X flush draws, some straight draws. Definitely want to pile as much money in here as possible on a draw heavy connected board when I have bottom set. But the initial aggressor checks to me. I'm going to bet small here. I think he doesn't have a very strong hand when he checks to me. I believe monsters and draws would try to bet here, protect their equity, or get value from worse. So I'm going to go small this one. I only bet $20. The later position player decides to fold, and the initial aggressor decides to call. We are heads up to a turn card, which is the King of Diamonds. Brings in 2 diamonds, so on a 2-tone board, thinking I have to size up here a bunch because my opponent can have either flush draw pretty easily. But I don't really get the option, as my opponent bets $65 into me. Kind of an interesting lead. Maybe pocket queens would play this way, maybe pocket eights some of the time. But also hands like king queen, ace king, maybe 10 jack or ace jack. But right now a hand that's really the most prominent to me is like 10 jack of diamonds might play this exact way. So not trying to pile it in here when my opponent definitely either has a very strong hand or a ton of equity. I choose to just make the call here. And the river is the 9 of hearts. Not my favorite, as 10 jack of clubs or diamonds might play this exact same way. But all other flush draws miss. Ace jack, ace 10 all miss. And my opponent could still reasonably have king queen, ace king. Sometimes ace queen as well. So my opponent thinks for a little bit and then eventually assembles a $125 bet. And as he slides into the middle, this is just a snap call. All worse hands are probably going to fold. All better hands are probably going to call. So this leads me to just call. My opponent instantly says, "You're good," and I just show my hand. No need to make him show. But he would later tell me that he had 9-7 of diamonds. And I would say his story definitely checks out. Could have raised turn and got a ton of money in here, but he had a million outs and happened to just not get the best river for his specific hand. But we take down another decent sized pot, and the stack's definitely growing. Still in for only $650. Feel great about how I'm playing at this 1-3 game. But when the 2-5 game is called, the first hand of note, an early position player raises to $15. I'm on the button with Queen Jack of Hearts. Think position and my hand strength is just too strong to just call. So we're going to 3-bet this one. We make it $50. Like to build the pot, get to play bigger ones in position, and my opponent just folds. So we take down a small one pre, but we're in the right direction at 2-5 early. We win another small one playing aggressively on the button, and we arrive at the final hand of note. A late position player raises to $15. I'm in the big blind with pocket threes. Seems reasonable to defend, and when I do, I of course flop another set. On 10-7-3 rainbow, I am just running very pure today.
Come on. Louis, this sounds like one of your little sweaty fantasies.
Feels good. Been running really bad in my last 2 videos, so check those out if you don't believe me. I checked to my opponent. He bets $15. If my opponent's bluffing, I want him to keep having the ability to bluff. Don't really want to scare away any overcards, any ace X, so we're going to just make the call on this one. When the turn is the 5 of hearts, I check to my opponent again. Only hand that completes a 6-4. Don't expect my opponent to have it literally ever, so I'm pretty happy with this card. But my opponent assembles a wager of $35. When he bets 2 streets, I'm going to narrow him down to ace 10, maybe 8-9 some of the time, but also all the overpairs I think play this exact same way. And I don't think any of those hands would fold to a raise, so we're going to try to pile as much money in right now as we can while we're confident we have the best hand. I bet $105. I think I've set this up nice for a river jam. My opponent only has about 175 left in his stack, so on any safe river I'm going to jam. But the river is the 6 of diamonds, and I check it to my opponent. I think this check is actually horrible. In hindsight, I hate it a lot. It gives my opponent the chance to just check back Jack 10, which he'd probably call a bet with, and that would be a horrible result. He could check back pocket 9s, he could check back pocket jacks, ace 10. There are so many hands that would pay off even a river jam at this point, but we let them all off the hook for fear of one single hand, 8-9. So I think it's just a huge mistake by me to check here. And then when I check, my opponent rips it all in. And I'm kind of in agony because I'm just going to call. So if I'm going to call anyway, I definitely want to put the money in myself. So huge blunder here. But when I do end up calling, my opponent shows pocket queens. So I actually get bailed out by the fact that he was willing to put the money in himself with this specific run out. And a massive blunder is not actually punished on this exact hand. So we bought on the 2-5 game for 1,000. We have profit in front of us. We end up profiting a total of $832 on this session. We were only there for an hour and a half, so that actually equates to $554 an hour or 110 big blinds an hour. And when I win and I'm quick and it's early, I want to celebrate with a sushi lunch. This is Sushi Bay right down the street from the Sarasota Poker Room. This sushi is only $12, so I'm probably going to go here for lunch like every day going forward. Yeah, I thought the day was going to go differently than it did. First hand playing flush over flush. Felt like it was going to be a tough day for me, but then ended up just making every set and then getting away from queens into aces, which most of the time is me getting fully stacked. So happy to only lose $55 on that one. And then pocket threes. I think I played it horrible, but that's why we do the vlog, so we can review our hands, learn how to do better in the future, and hopefully not make the same mistake again. If you made it all the way to this point, thank you. I appreciate it. And still trying to get out 2, maybe even 3 videos a week. We will be pumping out the content. So thank you for watching, and I will see you on the next one.